Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch on Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages, the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, also on Twitter and Instagram. Like, share, comment, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the greatest NESSP shows. Our website is nessp.info. Check it out. We have shows there. We have our stores, our links, our guests, and all their bios. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, a legendary boxing writer and former president of the Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mac. Nice day today. Ready to talk sports.
Yeah, if I can get my tongue up from in between my teeth to talk long enough, it'll even be better, Jack.
Floss, Mac, or what?
I'll tell you. Some mornings are better than others, Jack. So today, folks, on our show, we have Byron Williams, our NFL analyst. We also have Keith Engle, who is from TGI Sports Talk. And he'll be talking about a little bit about the Patriots, the Knicks, the Yankees, and a little bit about the NCAA basketball coming up with the Big East tournament. So, Jack, let's get to our sports updates and get the NHL out of the way with the Panthers beating the Predators 5-4, Tampa Bay over Chicago 3-2, the Blue Jackets over the Stars 3-2, the Jets 4, the Canadiens 3, the Hurricanes beat up Detroit 5-2. The Panthers 5, the Predators 4. And locally, Jack, the Flyers beat the Penguins 4-3. For the Flyers, Giroux with two goals, Courier and Lawton with a goal apiece.
Party win for the Flyers, Mac. They were down 3-0. They kept battling, chipping away, scored a big win. I don't want to say it's a turning point, but it's a big boost for the Flyers.
Definitely agree with that. The Islanders escaped by Buffalo, and with the Islanders, you had Eberle, Belvueller, and Dobson with a goal each. Martin with 2 goals, Jack. So the Islanders keep up their winning ways.
Islanders keep rolling, and they're playing the Sabres again. I think this is the second time in franchise history where they're playing another team 3 games in a row. So them and the Buffalo Sabres are very familiar with one another. Joel Skinner, Buffalo Sabre winger, who's come under a lot of criticism for signing the big contract, and he hasn't been able to deliver and score goals. He hits the post yesterday. So talk about bad luck. He needed a goal in the worst way, and to hit the post, imagine what that does to you.
Oh, man. He just points. You know? I mean,
they should give you like a quarter of a goal for hitting the post. The new rule I'll come up with. You hit the post, you're giving a little credit.
While you're at it, Jack, let's get a new rule for the NFL. If you hit the upright, instead of 3 points, you get 4. People will actually start.
I mean, listen, the new league, you're talking to someone who wanted to eliminate the offsides. I wanted to allow 2 laterals in football. Byron would have loved that. You catch a pass, and you're allowed to throw a forward pass to receiver. Wow, think of how much fun that would be.
Yeah, that would be rugby. It's called rugby, Jack. The Rangers thumped New Jersey 6-1. Kreider with 3 goals, Jack. Buchnevich with and Lafreniere and Smith with a goal apiece. So the offense was was really pumping for the
Matt
Rangers.
Kreider, his second hat trick in 5 games. Getting one hat trick is so difficult to do. I mean, 3 goals in a game, and to do it for the second time in 5 games, very impressive.
Yes, it is, Jack. So, Jack, as you know, every Friday, we cover the NBA, we review it, we preview it, and we talk about it. So, with our NBA review this week, we're going to talk a little bit about the standings first in the West, Jack, divisions. The Jazz are still on top at 27-9. The Suns move up to second with 4 wins at 24-11. The Lakers, losing 2 in a row, dropped to 24-13. The Clippers have lost 4, and they're at 24-14. Portland winning 3 are now at 21-14, followed by the Denver Nuggets, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Dallas Mavericks. In the East, the 76ers are still in first place with a virtual tie with the Nets. They're both like 1 loss away. So the 76ers are 24-12. The Nets are 24-13, playing that extra game. The Bucks are at 22-14. The Celtics, winning 4, Jack, are at 19-17. The Knicks are in 5th right now at 19-17, followed by the Heat, Charlotte, and Toronto, Jack. So in the games last night, the Wizards are over the Clippers, 119-117.
Wizards have been playing better. They're not a doormat anymore, Matt.
Exactly. And let's see where we got here. We got the Bucks at 112, Minnesota 111, Denver over Indiana 113-103. The Heat beat New Orleans 103-93. The Thunder over the Spurs 107-102. And we got Portland 123, the Kings 119. And locally, as I said, Jack, the Celtics won 132-125, winning their 4th in a row. Tatum with 27 points and 12 rebounds, and they got 51 points from the bench, Jack.
I'll tell you, the Celtics only a couple of games over 500. The Knicks a game over 500. The Heat are at 500. If the playoffs ended, it would be tight, the positioning. If it's that way towards the end of the year, you wonder, are coaches going to perhaps, and I hate to use this word, tank a game or 2. And when I say tank a game or 2, I mean rest guys for the playoffs, thinking, well, if we lose these games, we're going to get a little easier first-round matchup. For example, come playoff time, if Jimmy Butler is going a full head of steam and a team like the Celtics has a choice between playing the Knicks or the Miami Heat, they're going to prefer to play the New York Knicks. Let's be honest, if Miami has all cylinders going at that point. So you kind of wonder whether they're going to take their foot off the accelerator. And for the Knicks, they'll just be happy to be at the dance, no matter what. But teams like the Heat and Celtics, you kind of wonder whether it's going to be a little more about positioning when they get to the end of the year.
And speaking of the Knicks, Jack, as I said, they're over 500 at the All-Star break here with a 114-104 win over the Pistons. Randall again, 27 points and 16 rebounds. Barrett and Payton combined for 41 points.
When I'm wrong. I have to admit it. I wasn't as impressed as you and Keith Engle were with Julius Randle. I've come aboard. He reminds me so much of Amari Stoudemire before he got hurt, playing that role. And you get him another star player, someone else like him, and the Knicks are really going to take off. I mean, he's a legitimate all-star. He's an Amari Stoudemire, Chris Bosh type, and he's made a believer out of me. He's been outstanding. I thought early in the year was just a question of someone has to score, someone has to rebound. Even on the worst teams, you're going to have one guy stand out because someone has to get the points, the rebounds, and the assists. And I kind of thought Randall was that guy, but he's a legitimate all-star type no matter what in any situation, and he'd be that on any team.
I agree, Jack. He could be part of somebody's big 3 somewhere. I mean, hopefully the Knicks pick up another player maybe this year or at least by next year where they can really be formidable either this year or next year, depending on any
Well,
moves.
listen, Randall loves being a Knick. That's the good thing. He's not looking to go elsewhere. Some of these players, they want to be on a championship team so badly that they'll want to leave the current team they're at if they can't see a championship within sight. Randall likes the idea that they're building something. He likes being a star player on the team, and obviously he would welcome another star player to join him. And Tom Thibodeau is really building the foundation there. You have to give the Knick organization credit. The only thing that's sad about this whole thing is there are not enough fans in the stands. It just started, but imagine a packed Madison Square Garden. They will really be getting behind this Knick team, and there'd be so much energy in the building.
Yeah, that's true. Good morning to you too, Frankie. Sorry to hear about your loss. I hope everything is well with you. So, Jack, we're gonna turn to sports news right now, and the biggest probably free agent available was finally signed by the Milwaukee Brewers, Jackie Bradley Jr., a great defensive center fielder. Jack,
I'm going to tell you, I told this story one time before, but in case the viewers weren't listening to that show, Jackie Bradley Jr. is always going to have a special place in my heart. Some years back, myself and my wife on vacation in Rhode Island, we went to Pawtucket to see the Pawtucket Red Sox play a minor league game. I didn't know any of the players. I decided to play a game with myself. The players on both teams, I was going to find one player who I thought was going to make it in the major leagues, and I was going to follow his career. So there was this outfielder. He didn't get a hit that game, but I loved the grace he showed. Something about him. I said, if I'm a scout, I'm keeping my eye on this guy. He's on track. No idea who it was. And then I later find out I get his number, everything. It's Jackie Bradley Jr. And I found out he'd been with the Red Sox earlier, got sent down, but of course went back with the Red Sox and became one of the great defensive outfielders. You could even say in baseball history if you want, for pure defense and nothing else. Milwaukee signed him to a 2-year, $24 million deal where he could opt out at the end of the first year. I don't understand these opt-outs, Mac, that the players have. I mean, they're giving him $12 million a year, $24 million total. I don't see teams knocking down Jackie Bradley Jr.'s door trying to sign him. The Brewers should say either you take this 2-year deal or give us the option of terminating you at the end of the year. Mac, have you ever had options where you've worked where they've got to pay you, or you could just quit whenever you want and you could collect your money or whatever? I don't know. Your boss always wants a commitment. Bosses want a commitment. They don't want to put out an ad in the help wanted. Someone takes it and then quits on them because they get a better opportunity after a little while. They want to know you're going to be there for a while.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jack. I think, again, baseball's union is the strongest in sports, and, we'll see what happens in the next agreement, whether that stays that way or the owners finally try to do something about it.
Milwaukee doesn't have a bad team. It's a great signing for the Brewers.
Oh, I agree, Jack. Bradley Jr. is a great center fielder. Mitch Trubisky is coming up as an unrestricted free agent in 2021. The Bears may still re-sign him, Jack, but the teams they say that are interested the most in Mitch Trubisky are the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jack. So we'll see what happens. We know what happened with Roethlisberger. If anybody's been following, he did sign that 1-year contract. But Mitch is still very young, and maybe he would fit in Pittsburgh.
No, not Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger just renewed his contract with the Steelers.
1 year, Jack. 1 year, Jack. A 1 year.
Mitch Trubisky is not going to want to sit on the bench next year. And the Steelers have his backups. They have Mason Rudolph. I don't know whether they're that high on him. And let's not forget the X factor. They signed Dwayne Haskins. He's a project. But under the leadership of Mike Tomlin, who's a great, great coach, maybe Dwayne Haskins takes off. I'm not optimistic about it. I'm just saying nothing to lose there. Mitch Trubisky would want to start immediately. And New England's a possibility, but you never know the way Bill Belichick thinks. You never know. We thought Jason Stidham was going to be their starting quarterback, was being groomed, and and he didn't play much last year. But at Denver, there's a real possibility. Reportedly, they're not high, the Broncos, on Drew Lock. So it would be a situation where Mitch Trubisky would be able to go there, compete for the job, and have a decent chance of winning it. So two of those, three are a good fit, but I don't think the Steelers are a good fit at all for Mitch Trubisky.
I kind of like Pittsburgh, Jack. I think Ben, even though he signed that one-year contract, is getting older. This will be definitely his last year, especially if he plays like he did last year. This year will be his last year.
Mitch Trubisky will not want to sit on the bench if he could start somewhere else.
Well, I tell you right now, Pittsburgh is a lot more competitive than Denver or New England, Jack. And I think that I would be willing to wait a year if I knew I was going to have a coach like Mike Tomlin with a team like the Steelers and learn from one of the greatest quarterbacks that played. It's not a bad deal, I think. So.
Mac, of course, quarterbacks want to win, but they're a different animal from other positions. Quarterbacks, first and foremost, want to play.
I think every position.
You take someone like J.J. Watt. If J.J. Watt can be a part-time player on a Super Bowl team or starter for the Texans, he'd rather be a part-time player on another team. Mitch Trubisky, if he knew he was going to get the starting job for the Houston Texans, he would gladly go there. He just wants to play. That's his thing. But what's so bad with him sticking with the Chicago Bears? They don't exactly have a replacement.
They probably will restate. They're one of the teams that might resign him, Jack. But I disagreed with what you just said there. If that was true, that J.J. Watt would want to go on a team part-time, then why did he go to the Cardinals? To be on a winner. That's not.
Cardinals are up and coming, Mac. We have a different opinion of them. They will be a playoff team next year, the Cardinals.
We'll see about that. So in college, Jack, Michigan clinches the Big Ten conference yesterday. Villanova clinches the Big East, which is our local college basketball conference out here. In the NHL, the Calgary Flames fire Geoff Ward. They hire two-time Stanley Cup winner Darryl Sutter. So
Darryl Sutter's been a coach in the NHL for 18 years. A great coach, very successful. What I don't understand, Calgary firing Geoff Ward. They were at 500. That was their record. They had a 500 record. They weren't the disaster team. Why didn't they just do this before the year? What were they expecting? I don't understand coaches getting fired early in the year. I mean, it never makes any sense. Make a commitment to the coach for that season and stick with it. Once in a while, I can understand you make a change during the year. If there's a lot of dissension in the locker room, a lot of complaining, and the chemistry is really awful. But Calgary has been an average team so far. They should have just hired Darryl Sutter in the beginning of the year if they wanted to do that. Let me tell you, Yogi Berra got fired early in the year. Talk about coaches getting fired. In 1985, I think it was, the Yankees started the season at 6-10. Terrible start, but it was only 16 games, 10% of the season. Yogi Berra was so mad he would not go to Yankee Stadium for years or have anything to do with the Yankees for a lot of years until George Steinbrenner later on traveled to Yogi Berra's museum to apologize to him in person, and then everything became good after that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, if you gotta start with a coach and you're gonna fire him, a quarter way into the season. I mean, to me, that was I don't know what you're thinking either, Jack. It's just I think what happens in that case, owners and managers want to do something, right? They want to say that they're doing something to change the whatever in the team, whether it's the culture or whether it's the way they're playing. And this is the only choice they have, right? I mean, who else are you can't fire the players. You can't do that. So who do you go to? You go to a coach that it may or may not be his fault, but you're telling the fans, hey, we're trying to do something. And I think a lot of that has to do with public pressure.
You know what I've noticed in sports, team sports in general, the general manager's getting too much power. He's like a de facto owner. the owner usually relies completely on the GM. Whatever the GM tells them, more often than not, on more teams than not, the owner's going to listen to. So the GM is going to tell the coach exactly how he wants him to run his team, how he wants him to play his players. Listen, you don't think that happens with the New York Yankees? Why Brian Cashman is so fond of Aaron Boone? Because Brian Cashman's going to tell Aaron Boone what he'd like him to do, give him suggestions, and Aaron Boone is going to follow it. If Brian Cashman says, I don't want Giancarlo Stanton playing in left field because he might get hurt, blah, 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 Giancarlo Stanton's a DH full time. If Aaron Boone starts playing him in left field, now he's got a problem with Brian Cashman, and now his job is in jeopardy. And I think the managers and the coaches have to be given the freedom to run a team how they see fit, except maybe in the case I just mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton. If someone is truly injury prone, then you have to work within parameters with the team physicians. I understand that.
I agree with almost everything you said. I don't agree with you with Stanton, though. I think if you're paying Stanton that much amount of money, I'd rather him be out there left field and get hurt than getting hurt running down the first base as a DH. I mean, listen, you can't pay that much amount of money for a player to DH. And if he can't handle it, I mean, I don't know what his contract says, but I think the managers have got to start getting a little bit smarter. And what I mean by that, and the owners, when it comes to dealing with the Baseball Players Association, because these players can be hurt but not be hurt, if you know what I mean. They may not feel well, they may not, and they're not going to play. Listen, there's got to start being clauses. If I was an owner, Jack, and I signed Stanton, or I took over his contract, they didn't sign him, they took over his contract for whatever it was, $30 million a year, whatever he's getting paid. If he's going to be injury prone, where he doesn't play so many games, his salary's got to be cut. I mean, that's what would be if I took on a contract.
They can't cut his salary, Matt. He's not going to. Major Players Union won't allow it. Football, Major League Baseball, they never cut salary.
Then guess what? Then he wouldn't play for me, Jack, because I would not want to be
paying to keep him on the bench.
I would not pay him to be on the bench. I'm sorry, I wouldn't. And if he didn't agree to that, or the players, whoever didn't agree to that, and the player and his agent are the ones that signed the contract, the union can file a grievance. But I would not play somebody, especially in Stanton's situation, who is hurt all the time. When he's healthy, he hits 20 home runs. Everybody goes, "Yay, great!" No. Listen, man.
Mac, it doesn't work that way in baseball. Remember with A-Rod, when the Red Sox tried to sign him, A-Rod, to his credit, was willing to take a cut in pay to play for the Red Sox. The players' union said no. The Red Sox didn't want to sign him for the amount of money he was making under his contract that he signed with the Texas Rangers, the 10 years, $252 million. The Yankees were willing to pay that. So after the players' union didn't allow the trade to the Red Sox, the Yankees signed A-Rod. Players union in baseball, they do not allow the players to take a cut. It's that simple. You're confusing it with football, where guys redo the contracts. Contracts are not redone in Major League Baseball.
Well, is that according to the agreement, or is that just
the agreement? The agreement, and well, with the union too. The union stands firm on that. The player can't do that. They won't allow it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the agreement doesn't. I would have to look at the agreement, Jack.
They have to sign off on that, the union, and they don't do it in Major League Baseball. Listen, talk about injuries. How do you avoid it? Mariano Rivera was shagging fly balls in the outfield. He loved doing that, and he got injured. Mm-hmm. You're doing batting practice, and he was out a good part of the year. I mean, it's so hard to safeguard guys.
See, Jack, all I'm saying is, especially in Stanton's case and other players like that, I think Cespedes was that way too with the Mets. If you're not going to fulfill, and they did redo his contract, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Cespedes was different. Cespedes was different. I'm going to tell you why. An unusual case, because Cespedes and the players union allowed this because Cespedes didn't follow the guidelines completely in the contract. He got injured doing activities away from baseball that he shouldn't have been involved in. So the Mets might have had a good enough grievance to eliminate the contract altogether. They were going to go to arbitration, so they settled with Cespedes because neither side knew who was going to win. So Cespedes was willing to take a cut with the permission of the union because they thought they might lose the case, and the Mets thought they might lose the case, so they more or less compromised.
So they do allow the contracts to be cut, Jack.
Then no, if the players' union gives permission in an unusual circumstance, and an unusual circumstance means it's not about performance on the field. If a player maybe did something that went against the letter of the contract, like let's say Aaron Boone, the Yankee manager, is a great example. He had a contract with the Yankees after he hit the walk-off homer to get the Yankees into the World Series against the Red Sox in 2003. His contract said he wasn't allowed to play basketball. Aaron Boone played basketball and got injured.
Right.
And had to sit out a good part of the next year. And the Yankees did away with his contract. They signed A-Rod. Okay? Right. Because, Aaron Boone could have appealed it. Odds are he would have lost. In Cespedes' case, I forgot exactly what he was doing, but the Mets may have had a good case against him. Maybe, maybe not. And Cespedes basically cut his losses.
Well, I know for a fact, Jack, that not only did they cut his salary for that year, they cut his salary the year before that because he wasn't playing also. So there are things in there where you can go back and do something with the contracts. So anyway, with further ado, we're going to bring in our NFL analyst, Byron Williams. Byron Williams is a former NFL wide receiver with 5 different teams, most notably the New York Giants. He's been in 3 different leagues. He was number 1 in the World Football League as a wide receiver. He's an incredible guy. Also, he is in the NFLPA. That's the National Football Players Association. And we got some big news from Byron that I read about and that we talked about a text yesterday. So let's bring him on and let's talk to Byron Williams, our guest on every Thursday. How you doing today, Byron?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to make sure my head's turned right.
Yeah,
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I got the feeling, I could tell. I've been around athletes my whole life, even though I was just so myself. Byron looks like emotionally he's ready to play again. Yeah. He can crank it up. Am I right or what?
He couldn't do no worse than Golden Tate did. Ooh, bad shot.
Cheap shot.
I got it. Hey, Byron, first of all, congratulations. The people that we don't talk about the NFLPA a lot with you because I'm more interested in the football game itself, but you have been named, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know you were named the president of the Dallas Fort Worth area of the chapter there for the NFL. But you also got another promotion from what I heard. Tell the folks at home a little bit about that.
Well, I'm on one of the board of directors. It's 9 guys on the board, and I oversee 3 additional chapters now. I go back to one of my old positions. I was the president of the Dallas chapter from 2012 to 2016, and I was elected last Friday night to get back into the seat and help the players that live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And just excited about just staying in touch, engaged with a lot of the players. I've already talked to tons of players since last week. Talked to Kenneth Davis last night, old Buffalo Bill, Green Bay Packer running back and went to TCU, Charles Haley. Just guys like that, just keeping them in the game, learning what the benefits are on and off the football field, and as well as helping them navigate through some of the things with them and their families. Has
Charles Haley calmed down in time or what?
No, he hasn't.
It's still the same Charles Haley. Okay.
He told me he cussed me out. He cussed me out. Then he told me he loved me, and now he have a mental wellness component called Tackle Tomorrow. that he's getting ready to donate some a lot of computers to the DISD, 5 schools over there, 5 elementary schools. So we were working on that, but he's on and off, and I'm the only guy that can tell him that, hey, you better straighten up and fly right. So
he's kept out of trouble and he's doing good things. So
he's doing great things.
Nice for him.
He had fed some people in West Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and he had just got off the plane the other day, and he accidentally FaceTimed me, and I said, "What did you want?" It was so funny. It was hilarious. Me and him couldn't do it but laugh, but he's doing great things, and I told him that we're gonna need his help and support, just to make sure that we stay engaged and stay up to date on a lot of things that we can do in the community.
Yes, and me and Jack were just talking about probably the strongest union in sports, the Major League Baseball Players Association. I mean, they almost rule baseball, and like I said, probably the strongest. The NFL really has worked. The Players Association and the league has worked together pretty well, Byron. I mean, they've had some rough spots here and there, but I mean, as far as give and take, they're probably one of the best with the hockey union. Probably one of the best in sports. Both of them working together.
Yeah, the union is they call it executive committee. It's a strong union rep. It's probably about 9 or 10 of those guys. And J.C. Trotter, the center for the Cleveland Browns, he's the new head guy, and they constantly talking about some updates and keeping the players on top of the concerns of the NFL. The COVID situation, some of the things they have to navigate, off the football field, as well as working with the owners and the commissioner Roger Goodell. It's a lot of things goes on behind the scenes. So next week we got our yearly convention. This time we usually fly out to a city that they select, but this time it's gonna be a virtual leadership conference. They go in with the young players about 5 days, then the retired players 3 days after that. So it's very intense on things that we're concerned about on and off the football field, as well as the news and updates with all the things that's going on with the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, before we get into some of the football stuff, I've read and heard, and there's really not been a lot said about this, Byron, that the NFL is definitely going to 17 games, maybe as early as next year. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, it was voted on in this last collective bargaining agreement, 2020, last March. It was agreed upon then, and so they definitely going into that mode. It's going to happen. It just just got to probably wait back to normalcy on schedules and everything with the league. But yeah, it was definitely voted upon and agreed to.
When would the extra week take place?
Why?
The extra week, would it take place a week? Would the NFL season take place a week earlier, the regular season, or run a week later? Because to run a week later, you're really coming into colder weather in certain cities.
Yeah, I don't know the gist of the information. It might be a week earlier, but I don't know. I know that you're still gonna have your one game that you're gonna have off. Your week off. So I think it was inserted because of the wellness and the health of the players, as well as generating a little bit more income for the owners too. I think so.
Wait a second. For the wellness and health and extra game, I don't see how an extra game adds to that. Listen, I hated the preseason. I could never watch much of the preseason. I mean, I'll be honest about it. When preseason football is going on, I watch a little bit, and then I turn to the New York Yankee game that would be going on at the same time. It bores the heck out of me. It's experimentation. A bunch of players who are long shots to make the roster for opening game. So I actually welcome a game that counts, meaningful. To me, I'd do away with all the preseason games. That's just me.
Byron, can I go first? Jack, the preseason games are very important for players to make teams, to show what they got. I'm telling you right now, if we had no preseason games, there would have been a lot of players, including Super Bowl winners, including Hall of Famers, that might not have never got into the league. And I had a list that was longer, and you wouldn't even believe the names that were on there. One of them, the Giants' Victor Cruz, would not have been on the Giants if it wasn't for that preseason game against the Jets.
You could have a simulated game. You could have behind closed doors.
It's not the same, Jack. These players got to know how to do game situations. These rookies have got to know how to play in a structured game atmosphere of the NFL. Scrimmages don't cut it. I've done both. It don't work, Jack. So whether you hate it or not doesn't really matter to the teams. The coaches need that to evaluate players. And I would imagine Byron probably, as he became a veteran, did not like preseason games. But I imagine when he was a rookie, he sure did when trying to make a game or make a team. So I'm sorry, Byron. It drives me crazy when people say that.
Well, listen, that's a perfect analysis. I mean, you have to have preseason game. It takes some adjustment, some time for players to leave college and try to make an NFL team, as well as they got to know your character. It's character development. I mean, it's the timing. It's a huge step from college to pro. It's just a huge step, and you got to have some preseason games in order for these guys to play. You know, the majority of the preseason game is not played by veterans that you know that's on the team. You know, you got about 30 players that you know.
Okay, thank you, Byron. Thank you for – you don't realize you backed my argument. It's not for the veterans. The veterans are the ones who are going to start the season and get the bulk of your playing time. I agree for guys trying to make the team, you know, who just barely can make the team, so on. The preseason game is extremely important. I don't doubt that for 1 second. But when all systems go, like, you know, take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, they're veteran players. They don't need a preseason game. I mean, they just need to practice and, you know, get a big build up to the regular season and then just start the season, the first game, and they'll be in sync, you know. I'm talking about the established players and teams.
Well, but I think too, we got to think about now you got your practice roster, which you can have about 10 players, which now you can have almost 70 players, 65 to 70 players that you can shuffle around. But now you might knock it down to maybe 2 preseason games. I know up in Canada they have 2 preseason games, and I think that was a consideration on some of the preseason games. Maybe not playing as many preseason games. But, you know, you got the Hall of Fame game. You got games like that, you know, to get the season out, get people excited because the fans are going to get excited. And you'd be surprised how many people want autograph from these rookies, you know, because they're making this big adjustment from college to the pros. But I think that the buck of the season, you have to have at least 2 to 4 preseason games just to make it all work.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Byron.
Okay. I'm convinced. I'll give in on this argument.
You don't have to watch him, Jack. You don't have to.
I'm still bored by them, but I understand from where you guys are coming from, making teams, how it helps the team moving forward, how you evaluate players. I give you that point completely. But as a fan, strictly as a fan, I think fans are bored by preseason games. They're good for the team itself in evaluating talent, to see who makes the squad, who doesn't, to work on certain things. You guys make a great point. I agree completely. But just talking as a fan and other fans, I think fans in general are bored by preseason games.
Well, you know, Jack, I watch every single New York Giants preseason game. I want to see what we got in the future stars.
You got nothing better to do with your time, Mac, than to watch that.
Listen, I watched Victor Cruz tear up the Jets, and I said, that dude is going to be good. And I've watched Kurt Warner in preseason games when he wasn't on a team, and he became a Hall of Famer. The list goes on, Jack. I don't want to get sidetracked here too much, but I do believe preseason games have a very big purpose for teams, not only making the team, but the future of the team. So Byron, Golden Tate, he's gone. Mayo is gone. Golden Tate, I think, is still a very good receiver. In fact, I looked up some stats on him. In the last 3 years, he's probably the second best slot receiver statistically in the league. But it didn't really work out with him this year. I had a little problem with social media. When he got here, he was suspended for some games. I mean, the whole experiment with Golden Tate, even though he did make a couple of highlight catches, really didn't work out. That's $6 million, I think they're saving under the cap, getting rid of Tate. Do you think it's a cap move, or do you think if Tate was really playing well last year, they would have kept him?
I think a combination of both. I think the last couple of years he's been been tagged with a couple of injury bugs as well. But I think, too, he might have fit into Jason Garrett's offensive scheme, and so I think, with the new coaches and sometimes the chemistry is not there. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. And, of course, this year, he was in and out a lot with injuries and things like that. But, it's always a point of emphasis out there on the football field. You're only good as your last play. What have you done for me lately? So I think a combination of all those things like that. And I think they want to maybe move around some of the receivers and add some receivers to the core, So I just think he was expendable. He was, just unfortunate that he's gone. But, it's going to be some good receivers coming out of this draft as well. It's an offensive draft coming into this year. But I think they got their hopes on some other plans. I think, too, the scheme of things, he didn't fit in a lot. So when you're injured and you're not playing in those games, they tend to forget you. So I think that's kind of what happened to him. He kind of got caught up in the shuffle of things as well as the chemistry of what they're moving forward to.
I think we all do this to an extent. Whenever a veteran like Golden Tate, a team cuts ties with him and he becomes a free agent, we look at what might be a good fit for him. And the Green Bay Packers seem like such a nice fit, a veteran receiver. Aaron Rodgers needs another weapon. I think that would be an ideal situation for him if the money could be worked out, because he really needs an elite quarterback thrown to him. And Packers, I think, would be great for Golden Tate. So if I was agent, I'd be, on the phone with them.
Yeah, I think they got a list of probably about 4 or 5 teams that they probably want to, they want to just talk to about his talent and what he can bring to the offense.
And Deshaun Jackson, the Eagles cut ties with him. If he could stay healthy, you're talking about guys who could really make a difference for a contending team. And we don't know Odell Beckham Jr. He's probably going to be back with Cleveland next year. But, the reports were circulating that Cleveland would listen for any offers.
Yeah, when you get close to that 30 mark, it's anything goes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Pittsburgh, Big Ben signs a 1-year contract. Now, he the team hasn't released the financial details yet, but Ben was willing to take a huge cut to come back 1 more year. What do you think about that? Do you think Big Ben is really that's it? This is his last year, because last year down the road he didn't look too good. He got injured. He's getting older. He's a pocket quarterback, and he took a lot of punishment, Byron, over those years.
Yeah, I think he knocked his salary down to about $14 million, and it's going to help increase the cap part of what they're trying to do with some other players. And I think that's very important. But I think Ben is, he's a Hall of Famer for sure, and he's doing what's best for the team. And I've seen that same case scenario happen here in Dallas with Tony Romo. I think sometimes when veteran players get in this situation, it's all about trying to go to the Super Bowl. And I think that's what Ben is focusing on. I think, too, his leadership ability, he just does so many things off and on the football field. And I think, sometimes when you get to your point, when you get to that lifespan, you make these kind of decisions. I think it's best for him as well as the Steelers. That what he's done is going to help in the long run.
Before you came on, Mac and myself were debating about Mitch Trubisky, and Mac was thinking what a great fit Mitch Trubisky would be for the Steelers. And I disagreed, because I think Mitch Trubisky wants to play now. I don't think he's willing to voluntarily sit a year. If he can find a team where he could start any team, he's not going to want to be a backup on the Steelers to maybe take over for Ben Roethlisberger. And beside the Steeler quarterback situation, have they given up on Mason Rudolph as a backup? And also the X factor, which Mac completely dismissed. They picked up Dwayne Haskins. And if Dwayne Haskins is going to be a quality NFL quarterback, it's got to happen under a great coach like Mike Tomlin. Because to me, I got so much respect for the job Mike Tomlin does, the way he deals with players. And if he can't thrive on the if he can't prove he's a quality NFL quarterback with Mike Tomlin's coaching, I don't think, he could do it anywhere else. But if he can, Dwayne Haskins is young. You never know. He could be the heir apparent with the Steelers. It's possible. I wouldn't count on it. but I wouldn't dismiss it either.
I agree with that totally. I think too, but some football analysts, scouts got them maybe looking at Justin Fields as well, another quarterback. But I just think that Mike Tomlinson will be a great guy. He got great offensive skill. He know how to mentor these young players, and I think that's what's needed. But the Steelers got a number of free agent players that have really been impact players for them in this past year or two. And Juju Smith is one of those players, and they got some concerns. So I also think that Ben did a great job. They were 11-0 beginning of the season, so they really just not too far off from going to the Super Bowl, I think, in the AFC. So I just think if they got to make some good decisions on how they plug these holes and some of the things that they're going to need and some of the concerns. But, yeah, you're absolutely right, Jack.
Yeah, his center, Mike Ponce, retired. People don't realize how important emotionally a center is for a quarterback. He's kind of like his trainer in a way. He calms him down, because they have that direct contact the whole time. And I think that's completely underestimated, the importance of the center emotionally to the quarterback.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that people forget. The center is the key component to the scheme of things. I mean, they call the offensive line scheme, the blocking scheme, and things like that. And, they got to be smart because you don't want your quarterback hit a lot. And Pouncey was a great, he was a great contributor. He was a leader. You can tell they missed it when he was hurt a year or so ago. And, Ben was injured too because they didn't have that quite scheme of things on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And, Pouncey is one great bodyguard, too, I'll tell you that. There is talk, of course, we hear Russell Wilson, at least his agent, has been complaining, and it was reported that Russell Wilson actually got up and left the room wanting to have more involvement in offensive strategy last year. It's reported from ESPN CBS that Seattle has begun making and listening to trades for Russell Wilson. If this did happen, Byron, I don't think it will, but if it did happen, can you see that Wilson maybe going to the New Orleans Saints? I mean, they're a team that's ready to go to the Super Bowl. They just, Brees just retired. Big money gone.
Did he retire officially? I don't think he did.
Yeah, Drew Brees is all done. He said he retired.
But I agree with you, Mac, but I don't think he officially announced his retirement. And the longer he hasn't announced it, that means he's thinking he's not sure. He would have announced it by now. And the Saints are going to have a big problem if he doesn't retire, how to handle this.
His contract is up, Jack. If I got Russell Wilson, guess what, Drew Brees? You are retired. What would you think about that fit there in New Orleans, Byron?
I think it'll be great. Anybody can get Russell Wilson is really getting a great impactful player that can take it to the Super Bowl, no doubt. Because the way he throw the ball, just his consistency, things that he do on and off the football field, his decision making, his mobility, he got everything that you want in a quarterback, and he can check. He can bring a lot to the New Orleans Saints. I think they'll be one of the teams that can consider going to the Super Bowl. I think it'll be a good ad. I think they were
3 points of going away from the Super Bowl and championship, Byron. People don't remember the Saints were right there. The Buccaneers just got by them, so they're ready to go. Still, their window hasn't closed. If they can pick up a free agent overtime, like a Russell Wilson or a quarterback of that magnitude. I want to get to this, and there's one thing I hate in sports more than anything, Byron. When they try to fix something that's not broken, right? I mean, baseball does it, football does it, everybody does it. I don't get it. There's talk of a new overtime rule that's being voted on. It's called spot and choose. So this is the gist of it, right? A team would pick a spot to start on the field. Okay, that would be one of the teams. The other team would pick whether they would choose offense or defense. So if, say, the Giants and Eagles are playing in overtime, it goes to overtime, they toss a coin, the Giants say, I want to start on the 30-yard line or 40-yard line. Then the Eagles get to say whether they're offense or defense. You know something, Byron? I am so tired of them trying to do things to make. I don't like the overtime rule already. I think in the regular season they should let the games end in a tie if it's a tie, because it can end in a tie anyway. And if somebody kicks a field goal, then another team gets a chance to kick a field goal and tie it again. Or come on, man. You know, it's a regular season. The game's tied. That's part of the standings. When you get to the playoffs, you got to work it out. But this sounds ridiculous. Spot and choose, Byron, is what it's called.
I do not like it. I think it'll be bad for the game, and I think you some things you don't want to add to mess up a good situation, and I think that would be it wouldn't even make sense to me, because now you're going back to like sound like football, and you're not giving these players a chance to really win, and who's the best, who played the best in the contest. And I think I wouldn't like that. I think it'll be terrible for the game. It'll confuse people. You already got these other things about the kickoff. You know, you can't run. You can't take too many steps before the ball is being kicked on the kickoff. So the game is changing, but I do not like that. I think it'll be bad for the game.
I agree.
In my opinion. That's in my opinion.
You know, you guys didn't talk about, we were talking about quarterbacks before. What do you think of the vote of confidence that Joe Douglas, the general manager of the Jets, gave Sam Darnold? He said, we like Sam a lot, but if other teams call about trading for him, I'm going to pick the phone up. What kind of message is that? He made it clear he'll pick the phone up. He more or less said, we welcome calls. Let's hear what you have to offer.
That means they're going to probably get Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I mean, for the most part, unless you are a Tom Brady or Drew Brees or a player of that magnitude, a great wide receiver, I think you take all calls if you're a coach or GM, right? I mean, if they can offer you something that might benefit you and it might benefit them, why not? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. A lot of mock drafts out there, Byron. I don't know if you pay attention to this nonsense, but I try not to look at them at all, because you got these people that are normally fans of this certain team that are gonna, and even the professional reporters are fans of a certain team, and they're saying who's gonna take what at where, and free agent isn't even over yet. I mean, they still got free agency to consider to see who picks up who before they start drafting people. Do you pay attention to this stuff at all?
I look at it and I glance at it because I just wanted to see who the top 32 players that they put in those slots. But I also look at the top 5 in each position. I look at those players and how much experience they got and what they can bring and how much maturity they have. The impact players, usually your top 40 or 50 guys coming out of college are your impact players and that you can bring and add to your team. So I do look at them, but, they make these adjustments. But I think, too, a lot of time, that's what the combine is good for. They get to know these players. They get to sit down with them, interview them, and so forth. So they really get the ins and outs. I mean, you get your body be assessed from top to bottom. You're intelligent on how you answer questions. What are you thinking? Your background check from the 3rd grade all the way up to this point is also checked. So I think the combine is really one of those places where you really get to know players and you can see if they would fit into the scheme of things for your team. So, but yeah, that's very big, and so that's why I look at the mock draft, because you got 2 or 3 players. You say, dang, why did they pick this player? Where does this player come from? So that's the good thing about the combine. But some of these guys who create these mock drafts don't have a clue sometimes on some of the things that some of the teams might need looking at as well.
These background checks could backfire as well. Jerry Jones was told not to draft Randy Moss because of his background, and that completely backfired because he would have been a great receiver for the Cowboys, obviously. So later on, he drafted Des Bryant when they said the same thing. He didn't want to listen. Warren Sapp had the background check, and he dipped a bit in the draft. And that didn't work out. It would have been good had they drafted him early. Listen, someone like an LT, I don't know what his situation was before he came to the Giants, but he had some issues when he came to the Giants. And if he had some before, could you imagine the Giants bypassing LT because of this background check?
But yeah, but LT didn't hardly have anything in college that was bad.
In college, okay.
You know,
But let's say he did. He had later on. Let's say he started having a couple of issues early in college.
yeah,
He survived it.
Yeah, and I think too. I think you got to have things in place in your football organization to make sure that you got the support that these players need, because some of these players come from some devastating background. And so, and now you don't have players staying all 4 years in college. So the immaturity is also there. So there's a lot of factors, I think, that really that could be a part of your decision making on how you can fit this player into the scheme of things on your team.
Well, so. You know what they don't realize, Byron? When they play in college, even though the players may be away from home, they still have a great support system of the other students on campus. Whenever they're walking on campus, they got all these friends, and they have their security blanket just by being with the school, the program. Now they go to the NFL. It's like a culture shock. They're on their own. Yeah. They don't have everyone, with them all the time. It's the socialization isn't the same. It's difficult. I think did you find that, did you see the distinct change leaving a college campus, going to the NFL, going to the pros? You're more on your own. It's very difficult to deal with for some of the players.
Yeah, and it could be a culture shock. Being a country boy going to New York.
Depending on the city too. Yeah, absolutely.
But I do want to say this: when we came out in the class of '83, Dan Marino was one of those players that went to the bottom of the draft. That I thought
number 30. I
was in the combine with all these quarterback throwing to the receiver, throwing to us, and I thought Dan Marino was like in the top two. Him and Elway, those guys was like can throw that ball and on a dime and everything. But of course, he slipped down and he played with a chip on his shoulder. Dan Marino, and that do happen in the draft.
How did the Steelers, who were going late in the first round, they could have drafted Dan Marino from the University of Pittsburgh, a hometown guy? It's like beyond me. But the funny thing about Dan Marino, the Jets drafted Ken O'Brien that year, and reportedly Don Shula would have drafted Ken O'Brien too. So for whatever reason. Yeah.
Sometimes teams say that to make you get the player that they don't want. So that can happen too. So.
Yeah.
Well, with that background check, the Giants GM, he caught a lot of flack for moving up and taking a defensive back that got arrested. So, and what I think happens a lot, Byron, is that they don't leave the hood. They take the hood with them where they're going. They take their friends from high school, from the neighborhoods, and they stick with them. And they try to. These kids that follow these players are there for the ride, for the excitement. When it's totally different. It's not. You're not back on the playground anymore. You're a businessman now. You're a private contractor. You're trying to make money. And when you bring the kids that were from your neighborhood with you, a lot of them, even though they mean well, are there riding your coattails and can bring you down in a minute if you're not careful.
Absolutely, and that is a big factor. I mean, they want to always, because the guys will say, "Man, you remember when I did this, or you and I did this," and it's really sad. But you have to leave them. You have to leave those people where they are, because they only bad. They bad. That's bad influence, and it's not really good for you and your future. That's why you have to have good mentors. You have to have good, good. That's why those interviews are so important. I guarantee you, players are doing more investigation on your background now than ever before. Social media, all that stuff is a part of them finding out who you are and what your character is all about.
Well, I remember I think it was Herm Edwards was involved with this. They were having a mentor thing for young players coming into the league, and they let the guys know you don't need more than one car. Just buy one really good car, and that's all you need. You see these guys like 10, 12 cars, like they're toys, and they wind up broke.
Yeah. And some guys, I heard some guys buying $50,000 worth of jewelry, and just stupid decision making. So, guys don't really know the true value of what living is all about. And so that's part of that maturity. That's part of that background investigation. So those are some of the things that these teams are very considering now,
I agree, because you don't want to be a babysitter to men. I mean, you do want to make sure that they get in there right, but after they're in there and playing, you would hope that they would take all the programs available to them and that they would learn something about, I always thought, Byron, anyway, a lot of things in school are wasted time, right? We study about algebra and stuff like that when we should be studying how to fill out tax returns and saving money and setting up plans.
Tell me about it.
Something like that. I do think that starts way even before they get to when they get to colleges.
Great point, Matt.
Absolutely. One of the first things I remember Bill Parcells asking me was, how's Lorraine and Columbus? That was my parents, and I said, this man know my parents' name. I mean, so yeah. Those are the things that really hit home with when you come in making those adjustments, and they definitely got to dig into your background.
All right. So, Byron, thank you for coming in again as you do. Congratulations again on your promotion there. I love it when people I know that I respect really get what they're made of. I mean, people see it other than me and Jack and the people that follow us. And congratulations on that. I hope you have a great weekend. And, if anything comes up, big news, let me know on the side, man.
Big news. Okay, when Byron's on next week, I predict the Zach Prescott contract situation will be resolved. We'll see how it plays out. So we'll talk about that. You can only comment so much on that, Byron, because of your position. But Mac and myself could comment. So, something is going to go down. It's gone on long enough. It's got to get resolved. It's coming to a head. And we'll see what happens.
Jerry's.
We'll see. This is going to be a good week.
Yes.
And say hello to Jerry Jones for me if you bump into him. He's a boxing guy also, Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I'm going out to Frisco, so I've got to go up there this week. We'll see what happens.
All right, Byron, you have an incredible weekend. Best of luck to you and your family, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
Take care, Byron.
Thank you guys. All right, appreciate it.
So there you go, Jack. Byron Williams there with us again, coming in with his weekly visit.
I love when Byron comes on, Mac, because he usually straightens you out. Today straightened me out as well with the preseason. So,
Yeah, I mean,
it's good. Okay, I'm a believer now, a little more so than before. I still hate preseason games, but I see they do serve a very useful purpose.
Very, very important. But anyway, Jack, it does that is something that will be debated forever because a lot of people feel the way you feel also. So we'll be right back after these messages, folks, with Keith Engle from TGI Sports. A lot more sports coming your way. Please stand by and join us. We'll be right back.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org. We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a special broadcast of the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Yes, sir, Jack. That's going to be our Fight of the Century show coming up Sunday, folks, 8 to 10 a.m., where we have a great guest video of the Fight of the Century, Jack, where we have Ali Frazier 1, and we'll be having an incredible show. We'll be going live to Northeast Streaming Sports and to YouTube. Can't wait. Great guests like Don Majeski, Russell Peltz, Zero,
Frank Laterzo. They were all at the fight March 8th, 1971. And we have heavyweight Paul Simonetti, who fought on the undercard of that show and won his fight. He's going to join us as well. We're going to talk about the atmosphere, everything that went down. There are going to be so many fascinating stories of, you know, the most magical night you could talk. Definitely in sports history. To me, that was bigger than Man Walking on the Moon.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge night. You were there in the back row. It was my first
Last row.
That first fight I ever watched, and I was hooked, Jack. So Sunday, folks, we'll be having our great special, the Fight of the Century. We just had Byron Williams on, who was promoted to president of the Dallas-Fort Worth, Dallas area NFLPA, and he also looks over 4 to 6 other teams, I think he said, Jack, where he's coordinating with all the player reps there. So congratulations to Byron Williams, always a great guest on our show, filling us with a lot of great NFL information. We'll have Keith coming up in a minute. He'll be joining us from TGI Sports right after his show, and he's going to fill us in a lot of some Patriots news. I got Knicks news, of course. We've got the Yankees, a little bit of Yankees news, and also a little bit of NCAA Big East tournament news. So there'll be a lot of talk with Keith coming on as soon as he gets done with it.
As the year goes along, there's going to be Met news. because Francisco Lindor and Michael Conforto were in their walk years of their contracts. So their contract status is going to be talked about a lot. Are the Mets going to re-sign them, or what the situation is? So expect that to be in the news as we go along.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of experts, Jack, right now are picking the Mets to win the division, and I've read where they're in the top 5 teams in the league. They sure have talent over there as far as offensively and pitching right now. Signing catcher McCann, Lindor at shortstop, they've done nothing but bolster their lineup. So I think the Mets are going to have a really good year this
Carlos
year.
Carrasco for their starting rotation if he's healthy. Trevor Bauer, middle reliever. But, the Mets, we've been optimistic about them the last couple of years as well, and they didn't make the playoffs. So, but they've never had a player, in a long time like Francisco Lindor.
Very true.
So that's why there's going to be a buzz, in Flushing, with Lindor. But it is his walk year of his contract. Are they willing to break the bank to keep him? Because Lindor's already made it pretty clear. Once the season starts, they're not going to be negotiating a new contract. He wants to concentrate on baseball. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out. I'm not a believer in these 10-year contracts, Mac. Unless it's a very young player. Maybe Lindor falls under that category because he's 27 years old. So a 10-year contract would take him to age 37. But these guys are asking for 12-year contracts now. And it's rare that a contract at that length works out for the team. It actually worked out for the Yankees with Derek Jeter. When he was 25 years old, they signed him to a 10-year deal. Yankees got their money's worth there.
Oh, no doubt.
Mike Mussina, they signed to a 6-year deal. They got their money's worth with that. So sometimes you do, but I'm not a believer, Mac. You sign a guy for 10 years thinking if I could get 7 good years out of him, then I'm fine. No, you want a good year every year, the contract, you want to get value.
I agree.
Okay? So that's the way I look at it.
I definitely agree with you. I think Lindor, if he's talking 12 years, I think that's way too long for a shortstop.
That would take him to age 39.
Yeah, I mean, Jeter, you have rare, those are rare cases, Jack, where a player, especially at that position, they normally get moved to third or first or the outfield or something like that to keep their bat in the lineup. Jeter was a special kind of player that could do that at that position. It's very tough. So Lindor is at the shortstop where you got to cover a lot of ground, a lot of balls that are hitting the hole and still make plays. And, the good thing about Lindor is he gives him some left-handed power. I wish the Yankees kind of went after him a little bit harder because we do need some left-handed power on the team. And, of course, he's a great shortstop. But interesting note there, Jack. I believe that there's going to be a lot of talk, especially about Lindor, since he's the biggest signing the Mets have had.
Well, listen, Robinson Cano signed a 10-year contract, but he was with Seattle. Yankees offered him a 7-year deal. He was age 31 when he signed the deal. And the Yankees figured, okay, we don't want to go 7 years, but we'll do it, and we'll keep him till he's age 38. The Yankees smartly weren't willing to go 10 years. And Robinson Cano, even had he not been suspended this year, would have had 3 more years left on that massive contract at $24 million a year. He's not worth it. It's a losing proposition. Listen, even Albert Pujols, he was a free agent from the Cardinals. The Cardinals offered him a 9-year deal. They were going to go the extra miles for him, but he took the 10-year deal with the Angels. He hasn't been worth the 10-year deal that the Angels have offered Albert Pujols. He's been a very good player for them, but he hasn't been a superstar.
Yeah.
So you don't get good value on these deals. You just don't. And for the Mets to go crazy on the Lindor deal, I just don't think it'll be a good thing. But Steve Cohen does have deep pockets, deeper pockets than any other owner in Major League Baseball. So that's going to make it very, very interesting.
That's very true. Backstage right now, folks, we have Keith Engle from TGI Sports Talk, a great host over there. He comes on every Friday to give us updates on the Patriots, the Knicks, the Yankees, and a little bit of NCAA, especially this week. We have a big thing coming up Monday night, Jack. Let's bring Keith on. How you doing today, Keith?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Keith.
You notice a difference in Jack's volume now. He can really.
I
I had to take my headset off.
Keith coming on. I'm curious, okay? No one is talking about the Patriots, yet Mac wants to break this great story, saying Keith has some really breaking Patriot news or something to the effect. No one is talking about them right at this moment. We're taking a well-deserved lull from New England, and then we'll talk about them in detail later on.
Well,
What's this new news? What's this new news that Mac is teasing us with?
Well, we're going to talk about it right now, Jack, with Keith. James White's coming on as unrestricted free agent this year. It's a big signing that the Patriots either got to make, and White has done very good with the Patriots, or they have to let him go. And not only that, there's 26 more players that need new contracts, and the Patriots are desperately looking for a quarterback. In your opinion, Keith, what are they going to do? Are they going to sign these 26 veterans that they need back? If they don't sign them, there's going to be a little bit more holes there. If they do not sign them and they go and get a free agent quarterback for a lot of money, they're not going to be able to sign all these players. And, of course, James White, being an unrestricted free agent, would be a good loss for the Patriots. I mean, good by saying that, not meaning it'd be good that they lose him. It would be a pretty – I'm not going to say a big loss, but it'd be significant.
It would be significant. You know, with the free agents, Mac, as always with the Patriots, they're going to sign if it's a Patriot-friendly contract, right? And they're not going to overpay any of these guys. They'd rather get rid of guys too soon than too late, as a rule. Even their – I won't mention his name because I know Mac's tired of talking about him. But, you know, I got a feeling James White is one guy who, unless he comes back with a very, very team-friendly contract, he may be moving on, because the Patriots are – I mean, they're fairly deep at running back. You know, they have some injury problems, some of the guys, and James White's got some miles on him now. He's been a great player, a great contributor to the team. Didn't play as well as he has in the past. Last year, some injury problems, some other stuff obviously going on. But I have a feeling they may move on from him. But some of these guys, they can't let all these guys walk, right? I mean, there's some pretty important guys on the offensive line that are free agents. But they do have to fill that quarterback void, and it's going to take some money to do it, because you can't pay $1.1 million and get a quarterback that's going to win any games.
Right.
Keith, you mentioned team-friendly contracts. The Patriots were able to get away with it for a couple of decades because they were contending for the Super Bowl because of the type of team they were. The type of team they are now, it's going to get harder for them to get players to sign team-friendly contracts because New England isn't as appealing a destination as it was a little while ago.
Well, I mean, there's some truth to that, Jack. But remember, this is a 1 year. This is a 1 year situation. This isn't the Jets where we've been bad since 1969. I mean, except for a handful of years. You know, let's let this year play out, and I think it's still a destination that players will want to come to because they know that there's a winning tradition here. There's a winning atmosphere. There's a winning team in place from management and a coaching perspective.
No, I disagree. I'm going to tell you why I disagree, Keith. Every season in preseason predictions, the Patriots on the short list in the AFC as to who's going to go for the Super Bowl when people put down their predictions, the so-called experts. This upcoming year, there's going to be few nibbles on the Patriots to put them up there as one of the preseason favorites. Very few people are going to be predicting that they go to the Super Bowl, as opposed to the last couple of decades where many people year after year would predict they'd go there.
Well, no, that part's very true. But again, I don't think again, I talk about the 1 year aberration last year. I think this team will rebound next year. Will they be a Super Bowl contender? I'm not going to go out that far just yet. Let's see how the free agent signings go. Let's see how the draft goes. But I do not see this team being 7-9 next year. I really don't. And will they attract the same type of player that they attracted before? They weren't bringing in marquee free agents here, Jack. They were bringing in pieces to fit their system, except for a handful of times, right? Randy Moss, I guess Darrelle Revis one time. But they weren't bringing in these marquee names year after year. They were bringing in pieces that would fit what they do. They brought in, you remember when they brought in, I'm going back a long time, when they brought in Harrison from San Diego. His career looked like it was on the downside. He played great for the Patriots.
Rodney Harrison, yeah.
I mean, these are guys that were not at the top of their game at that moment. They weren't premier free agents, but they filled a need for the Patriots, and that's what they've done over the years. Now, granted, in those years, you had less of those little pieces you had to fill. Yeah. This year, there's a lot. But there's some pieces coming back of guys that opted out last year, too, that you can't, especially on the defensive side of football, that you can't just discount as those are guys that weren't there that will be there this year, and some very important guys.
Keith, I kind of agree with Jack a little bit for this year. I don't think the Patriots are going to do much better than they.
Max.
Yeah, it happens once in a while. I kind of agree with him. I don't know if the Patriots will be better than 7-9 last year. I think the Patriots got to rebuild, and that starts with the line and those 26 people that they've got to sign, or they got to find replacements, which the Patriots have done well in the past. The Patriots are a great team and a great organization, and I still think they can draw almost anybody there they want as long as the money's right. The problem is that the money's not right in a lot of cases, and you're not going to get the big free agents that other teams get. I think that the quarterback slot should be filled very soon if they want to attract people there, because a lot of decisions are made on who's throwing them the ball. Right now, with those wide receivers out there, they have no idea who's going to be the quarterback. So why is Juju Swisser or one of these other top wide receivers going to come to the Patriots if they don't know who the quarterback is? Right now, Stidham isn't going to cut it. If they pick up a good quarterback, a decent quality quarterback, then you might start getting some wide receivers or other free agents.
Again, I agree to a certain extent. Yes, they need a quarterback. They need to show players that they are serious about turning this around in 1 year, right?
Right.
And not 5. But again, there's no sense of bringing in a quarterback if you can't sign offensive linemen to protect them. I mean, we saw when the offensive line was not at top of their game last year, Cam Newton was just a sitting duck, and what they wanted to do wouldn't work. So if you don't have an offensive line, I don't care how good your quarterback is, you're still not going to win games. The offensive line and the front seven on the defense is the major focus right now on that team. The quarterback's important, but again, without a line, without a defensive front seven, and without some more weapons, there's a lot of place to fill. So I can understand your argument that maybe this is a bigger thing than a retooling, but I still think that the team, the management team, the coaching staff in place can get this done and get this ship righted and headed in the right direction next year.
Well, we'll see if you're right or Keith. I hope you are, because I want all the locals to do really well.
I do too. I don't want to be coming in here week after week and having Jack go saying, "You guys lost again. When are you going to win a game?"
No. Jet fans are not entitled to say that to anyone. New England. No, I wouldn't go there with that.
So, Keith, in the Yankees news, of course, we picked up Kluber, who has been injured the last couple of years. Yeah. He pitches 2 perfect innings. He says he feels good. I don't think any player comes out and says I feel great, because they don't want to, say I feel great and then downfall.
Yeah.
Kluber, I think, and I'm trying to remember the other guy's name that they picked up who also has been injured.
Talon.
Right. And if he's healthy and Kluber is healthy, now the Yankees are putting together a team that could contend for the World Series.
If Severino is healthy, all these question marks, guys.
Well, Severino won't be available till midseason at best anyway, but he'd be a great addition if he's healthy, to your rotation at midseason. That'd be awesome, right? Because, now you don't have to worry that much about limiting his innings and whatnot. A lot hinges, as Mac just talked about, on Kluber and Talon. I mean, it's just these guys have got to be healthy. They've got to give them innings, and not just innings. One of the terms I hate of all terms in baseball is innings eaters. Yeah. I don't understand what do I need an innings eater if the innings they're giving me are terrible? I've never been in favor of that whole thought process. But if these guys are healthy, you get 3 really good starters. Those guys all have talent. And it's just a matter of being healthy. And I'm not ready to say they are after Kluber threw 2 innings in an exhibition game. He looked good. He came out of it without being hurt. That's a good sign, but there's a long, long ways to go. And also you need the back end of that rotation to be decent. Jordan Montgomery has shown flashes over the years. Last year, Garcia showed some flashes of being good. Herman is back. Whether you think that's a good thing or not, I've got some opinions on that I've talked about on some vlogs and whatnot. But the kid's got talent, and they go. I mean, they may need to use 8 or 10 starters during the year next year. So
I think once the Yankee season starts, the most compelling story is going to be that of Gary Sanchez, not the pitching staff. All eyes are going to be on Gary Sanchez. I mean, the pitcher's going to have 1 or 2 bad outings, all of them, and people aren't going to pay attention. But let Gary Sanchez go 1 for 8 in the first 2 games, allow a passed ball or 2, and they're going to be out all over him. And how he handles it, yeah.
I'll probably be one of the guys. I was not in favor. Yeah. I was in favor of moving on from Gary Sanchez after last season. I thought it was important. It wasn't working out here. He's got talent. He could go someplace, and I think the Yankees are afraid of that, right? Him going someplace else and really.
Well, he has more pressure on him than anyone else on the team to get off to a quick start. Even Clint Frazier, we know what Clint Frazier is capable of. Clint Frazier could slump the first couple of weeks of the season and get away with it. Gary Sanchez doesn't have that novelty.
Keep in mind, too, there's no guarantee Gary Sanchez will be the starter come opening day. I mean, they brought him back, but, Cashman did not give him a ringing endorsement at any point in time during this offseason.
Well, they're hoping he's going to be the starter, put it that way.
Of course they are, sure. I mean, look at that team's better if Gary Sanchez, I almost said Gary Carter, I don't know why. Gary Sanchez I wish it was Gary Carter in his prime, right?
It's a little different. It's a little
bit. A little bit. I want Gary Sanchez to succeed. I'm not a knucklehead. I'm not going to root against him, but gosh, the body of work the last 2 seasons has not been good on either, offensively or defensively. I got as many problems with him defensively as I do with the.
This is a make or break year for him. He can't have an off season and remain as a Yankee. He's just got to deliver this year. And I hope he realizes the urgency, because he didn't understand why he was benched during the postseason. And if he doesn't understand that
scares me.
I mean, then he's maybe not feeling the urgency this year. And you don't want a guy to feel that he's under pressure normally. But in Gary Sanchez's case, there's urgency. There's pressure there. He has to understand that. And he knows he just has to deliver. He doesn't have the novelty, a time on his side.
True to form and it kind of goes to what you're talking about, that if he goes 1 for 8 and has a couple pass balls and blah, 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 they'll be all over him. True to form for the New York press. I mean, he has a couple of good at-bats in spring training, and there's headlines that,
They'll get behind them. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, he went down to that league in South America, and he hit a couple home runs, and they were like, "Look, he's back." He's not back, folks. He's not back yet.
Guys, if that league was all that good, and it's good baseball, don't get me wrong, it's really good baseball. But if the leagues were that good, all those guys would be playing here. So
no doubt. I mean, I think the fans really want him to do well, which is good. I think so. I just think that McCann or Real Muto would have been a nice surprise for the Yankees, and I think we could have afforded them. So I was kind of hoping they did that. But
their own restrictions and putting a governor on their salary cap and wanting to stay under was what drove all that, So
you have to think, if George Steinbrenner was still here instead of his sons running the team, they would have made a splash with someone. I don't know who it would have been, but they would have made everybody. Splash.
The payroll probably would have been $300 million if George was alive.
Trevor Bauer, Realmuto would have been a New York Yankee now, but
probably so. So guys, let's get to the Knicks for a minute. The Knicks have finished over 500, and let's see if we can put up and see why, folks. Before we get there, hopefully this works. Let's see if this works today.
Mac going with the video. I love the high-tech stuff. Nice.
3 assists already. Randall looking to get on the books. Randall over Day. All-star. Wheeling and dealing along the baseline as the Pistons.
Grateful, Kenny and Clyde, for a second chance to make a first impression, as he says. And if you haven't checked out this article, I highly suggest you give it a read.
I wish he would be quiet.
We mentioned Lee also 20.
And Randall with the rebound and bang. Oh, Randall with the three, sorry.
3-point shooting's been amazing for him this year. That's one of his biggest assets this year.
But he's getting them assists too, Keith.
Assists, rebounds. Tremendous game last night.
Yeah, and he just finds the open man when he can.
I was wrong about him, guys. I got to admit it.
Well,
I thought he was pretty good, but I thought he was
right back.
I didn't think he was as good as he is. And he's another Mari Stoudemire, Chris Bosh, type.
He is a very, Jack, I'm glad you said that because I was ready to come out here and say this guy isn't playing like a star. He's playing like a superstar. He does this night in and night out. This is one night.
Right. And they're talking, he was talking about leadership. He likes being a Knick, which is really cool.
After the game, they had an interview with him, and he talked about how he really enjoyed the influence that he was having on some of the young guys and how they were following his work ethic and what he did he turned his game around over in the offseason. Thibodeau had great things to say about him.
Keith, I got to ask you about one of the Knick players who I like a lot, and he started off the year good. Austin Rivers, every night he's glued to the bench. Did he get into a conflict with the coach? How can you torture a guy like that? At least give him some minutes and mop up. But to glue a guy of his caliber to the bench, something is up here. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I don't know if there was any conflict. I think one of the big deals here is, well, first of all, he's got, 4 guards playing in front of him that are playing really good. And
he wasn't playing badly, Austin Rivers.
No, but once you brought in Derrick Rose, who are you going to play, Derrick Rose or Austin Rivers?
Give him some mop-up minutes. Give him a little time here and there. He doesn't get off the bench no matter what.
Look, I think part of that too, Jack, is this is just my opinion. They're going to be making some more moves probably, right? And you've already seen the best Austin Rivers is going to play, and you put him on the floor now and mop up minutes. Who knows what it looks like? You get him hurt. They're going to want to probably use him as a trade chip. Same thing with Frankie, who I can never say his name.
Listen, Dennis Smith situation when he was with the Knicks, Dennis Smith Jr. was the same. He wouldn't get off the bench. The Pistons are playing him. He's been so-so. I've been following his progress. The jury's still out on Dennis
Played
Smith.
all right. He's played all right. But
not bad. I mean, he's so-so. I mean, it's
But Derrick Rose, that trade is a great trade. Derrick Rose has brought so much to this team off the bench, and Thibodeau loves him. They got a great relationship.
I agree.
He's been great for the kids. And I just think that Derrick Rose, and they've missed him the last couple of nights. They played well last night, but they missed him the night before or the game before. Hopefully he'll be back he'll be back because I guess probably won't play till middle next week. But
after the All-Star break.
Yeah, so he should be back. They were worried he had COVID, but he's just in the protocol now. So
what was interesting and from them highlights, and I know you guys are talking about Rivers and everything, but what was interesting to me was not only a shot block, hitting the guy on the run down the court for an easy jam. I mean, the man is playing out of his mind. Me and Jack were talking. I think could be a part of a big three anyway, and any team. And I think that the Knicks have him right now. I would love to see a move to get if Rivers is included in that trade this year. I think the Knicks could compete with the 76ers and the Nets to a point. I don't think they're that good yet. But in the best of 7, who knows? I mean, anything can happen. I think that they could have a legitimate run if they get one more piece. They got Barrett. They got a couple good guards that are starting right now. We still got Rose. We still got Quickly off the bench. And the main thing you got right now is this superstar forward who's doing everything for the team every night.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they are probably a piece away from, again, if you finish 4 or 5 or something, I mean, you got a chance to win a playoff round, and that you finish 8, you're not going to win probably. But if their next move is very important because they got to be careful what they do. I've been in favor of bringing in a Bradley Beal or somebody and maybe thinking about Barrett.
That's a major deal. That's a major deal.
Yeah, you're not getting a for a second rounder, right? You're giving up some first round draft picks. You're giving up a player too, like probably Barrett.
Quickly, something along those lines. I think the Knicks are playing with house money this year. I wouldn't be concerned how they did in the playoffs. It looks like they are going to make the playoffs the way they're going, unless they suddenly collapse the way the Cavaliers and Rockets did this year after a promising start. The Knicks could get swept in the first round, and it would be a successful year. They have the novelty this year.
I don't disagree. They can't disrupt the process for the sake of the playoffs, right? But I think they can do both. I really think they can continue the process of getting these kids up to speed and getting better and showing free agents that you ought to consider coming here, right? Which we know is important. And Randall, look at you talk about big threes, and we've talked all year, and I've been a big fan of him since day one, and the way he's improved his game this year. I know, Jack, you were a little slower coming around, but
I was slow coming around. I was wrong.
Even I had him on the back end of a big three. Well, he's not necessarily the third amigo in one of these big threes right now. This guy is playing at a superstar level right now.
I get the feeling you mentioned before Frank Ntilikina. I hope I'm saying his name right.
That's as good as I can do, Jack.
I think Thibodeau is starting to play him after he was riding the bench. He might be showcasing him, but the problem is a point guard is supposed to rack up assists. He doesn't rack up assists. What kind of guard is he? He's not a point guard. He's not a shooting guard. I don't know what to make out of him. I mean, they drafted him number 1, and it hasn't quite worked out.
No, it hasn't worked out, and I don't think he's staying here. I think this is a showcase for sure. He's one of the guys, him and Rivers.
What chips could they give for Bradley Beal? If Obi Toppin wins the slam dunk contest, some people are enthralled by that. I'm not. But
I don't think that'll have any bearing on.
I mean, could you give quickly Toppin and someone else and a number 1 for Bradley Beal? Because Bradley Beal could be a real force with the Knicks. You pair him with Julius Randle.
I'm not doing that.
And the Wizards are playing better lately. I told Mac early they're not a doormat anymore. Maybe they just don't want to trade him. Everyone thinks Bradley Beal's available. Maybe he's not.
It's entirely possible he's not, because they are playing much better recently. Who they beat last night? I can't remember who they played, but I was watching the highlights this morning. Damn.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook is pairing with Bradley Beal nicely lately. So
yeah, and they've got some nice pieces off the bench. They're playing well, so who knows?
Scott Brooks.
But I'm not getting. I like Bradley Beal's game a lot, but I'm not giving up Toppin and Quickly and first round draft picks. I'm just not doing it. If I can get him for a couple of firsts and maybe I might consider Barrett, as well as Barrett's playing right now.
Well, something along that line. Maybe Barrett and Toppin. And one other player, maybe not an impact player there.
Well, any of those guys we mentioned will go, but I don't want to give up on Toppin. I really don't. I think this kid, he's showing flashes. And again, slam dunk contest, I don't care what he does. He could every dunk, and I wouldn't care, and he could win it, and I don't care.
But Keith, you got to give up something substantial to get to Bradley Beal. You can't just skirt around it and hold back your best chips and say, well, we'll give you a couple of number 1s. I mean, that doesn't do it.
Well, no, we'll give him a couple players. I'll give him a good player. I'll give him R.J. Barrett. But that's
R.J. Barrett and a number 1 won't quite get it done. They're going to want something else.
2 number 1s. And they're going to get – you got other guys. You got nice pieces we just talked about in Nikila, and Austin Rivers. And you got pieces.
Austin Rivers, well, they're not showcasing him to increase his value there. So
I guess if you push me hard enough, I might consider Toppin, but the guy I won't give up is Quickly. I will not give up Quickly. He's gonna be Bradley Beal, I think, at some point. With
Toppin, Barrett in a draft swap.
I don't like giving up Barrett either, but that's just me. But
I go there reluctantly. If I want Bradley Beal, I got to give up something.
Yeah, definitely.
We're not going to, right?
I have a feeling Beal's not going nowhere. I mean, they beat the Clippers last night, and of course the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi Leonard was playing, so it's not that big of a deal. But they did beat him, and
let me tell you what makes me laugh. There's talk of Karl Anthony Towns. When Thibodeau coached him with the Timberwolves, it was a mess. Yeah. Who knows what type of relationship they had, but it was an utter mess. And if Minnesota's as bad as they are with Karl Anthony Towns there, what kind of difference maker do you think he's going to make with the Knicks? And he's going to slow down their offense as well.
Yeah, I worry about doing something in the middle. The same thing with Drummond. They talked about bringing Drummond in here. And again, they're playing really well. They don't look for offense out of that position. And both those guys are going to have some plays run for them. They're going to clog up the floor for Randall and Toppin. And, I don't know. My gut's starting to tell me that we aren't going to get a big trade here. They're going to make some moves to kind of tweak the roster, it might be a Derrick Rose type transaction and not a big over the top. We'll wait for the offseason for that because, again, they can do a little tweaking here, and I think they could make some noise. They finish in the 4th or 5th spot. They can win a playoff series. Yeah. You said making the playoffs and losing is still a successful season. Yeah. Well, if you get there and you win a round, it's way above expectations for this year. We're way ahead of where we thought.
In a way, that's going to be a bad thing if they win a round, and I'll tell you why. Because then the expectations for next year are going to be greater than they should because the Knicks would have overachieved this year.
The Knicks, they're going to be there anyway. They're playing in New York City in Madison Square Garden. You know what? Making the playoffs, no matter what, this year is fine. Expectations are going to be through the roof next year, no matter what.
It's true.
Depending on who they pick up, they have to make some type of deal for added expectations.
It's going to be a huge offseason for Leon Rose. He's had a great first year, as we talked about, I think, a week or so, maybe last week. But now it really becomes important because getting this team competitive and to the point they're at right now, the key thing he did was hiring Thibodeau because he changed the whole culture of the team.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what do you do now to take – because the fans will be happy at 500 in a playoff spot. Not forever. Next year, expectations rise exponentially. It's going to be
the great situation over there is Thibodeau wouldn't be happy with a 500 record, and that's the key.
That's true.
That's very true. And that's what kind of coach we need there right now anyway. So, Keith, we got a big show coming up Monday night over there at TGI.
Yeah.
The Final Four of the Big East tournament. We know Villanova has won the title there. They are the first seed, but, man, they lost a big player to a serious knee injury.
There's a lot of news going on in the Big East before we get there. The best two teams, you got Villanova has lost their point guard for the season. Creighton's head coach gets suspended for some remarks. I mean, I'm not sure what to make of it. I haven't dived that deep into the situation. I saw the remarks, and I don't know if you guys have talked about it at all, but it's a weird situation. And the environment we live in today, you can't be using the kind of language that he used, but at the same time.
If I'm correct, Keith, tell me if I'm correct. He called the program something like being on the plantation. Am I right what I said?
Well, he didn't say the program necessarily. He was talking about they'd had a tough loss against Xavier, I believe. And what he used, I think I jotted down what he said. He said, guys, we have to stick together. We need to keep both. I can't really read what I'm right here. We need to keep both feet, on the ground. We can't have anybody. We have to stay on the plantation. We can't have anybody stray off the plantation. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, right?
Right.
So, I mean, he's using it. I don't think he's calling the program the plantation. He's using. I mean, it's a poor choice of words, right? I mean, especially in today's environment, but. It's hard, and you know what? My guess is right now he's only suspended for the last game against Butler. But my sense is he won't be back for the tournament. I doubt they're suspending him one game. He's probably.
I got to tell you, Warner Wolf, the old-time broadcaster, who was very, very popular, he lives in Florida in this place. It was in the news called Plantation, Florida, and he ripped the sign out because he objected to the name and got into a little trouble for causing damage to property.
Yeah.
But you're right. Certain names sometimes have to be reevaluated. How they are used.
You got to be smarter. You got to be smarter than
exactly.
You
You
know,
know, you mean it the way it sounded, but nevertheless, you got to be careful.
You guys for agreeing with that, I think, are totally wrong. The man didn't didn't say they were on a plantation where there's.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree with you.
For them to suspend them over that shows me that university has no guts. Just like the people, the pros that make and broadcasters that make these comments that are used regularly outside the walls of the microphone and that have been used for years, and now they're going to suspend you, fire you, get rid of you.
It's insane. I agree, Matt.
Ridiculous. And if he said we're like slaves on a plantation, all right, now we're talking. Now you're saying something that is totally derogatory, should be suspended, probably should be fired. But to say that we got to stick together, what are you going to say, in the camp? And I mean, you say what comes natural. And to me, okay, hey, listen, I'm sorry I said it. The head of the head guy for the sports comes out. He was totally wrong. He didn't mean it that way. We have addressed the situation. Done. But to make a statement like that is just giving into people in special organizations and special groups who have certain agendas that get taxpayer money, that the way they get taxpayer money is by forming these organizations and protesting. Going crazy, and I don't want to go down a tangent, but it just ticks me off.
Right, it's within the context the remarks made. I agree with you, Mac. It was a poor choice of words, but it wasn't intended in
it
way.
Wasn't meant maliciously in any way, shape, or form. And I agree. I wasn't saying he should be suspended. I'm saying
I should apologize for the choice of words. Right, I should be smarter how I go about things. I'm sorry. And as a society, we should have a little more forgiveness too.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not necessarily to address Mac's point too. I'm not necessarily saying guys shouldn't be able to say things that they've said for 50 years in their life without any malicious context. But unfortunately, where we are, we have to be more careful on what we say, and it makes us for a more boring society if we're all just going to be a bunch of robots.
Listen, everyone loved Muhammad Ali, absolutely loved him. I saw a clip of Muhammad Ali from the other day when he was interviewed by Dick Cavett, an old time clip. And Dick Cavett said, we're concerned about you continuing to box at the end of Ali's career, that you could wind up on Queer Street. Okay. And imagine using that remark, Queer Street. So then Muhammad Ali started acting in a certain way, joking around. And if he did this today, I mean, there would be a lot of blowback. But I'm just,
there would be.
You got to be very, just unfortunately, we're living in an ultra sensitive society, and we're not living in a society that forgives. That's what bothers me. It's how something is intended to say. And someone can make a remark. Let's have forgiveness, if you don't like what they said, if they're sincere. I mean, the Sacramento King announcer, what's his name? Sean Napier, whatever his name. He had a 30-year career. I don't want to go over into specifics or so on, but
there's been a lot of these in the last
Tom Brenneman, the Cincinnati Red announcer, their lives shouldn't be ruined over making a remark, especially when they're contrite. Let's have a little forgiveness too. It makes no sense to say you're sorry anymore, because if you say you're sorry, they say you're a phony. You don't mean it. And if you don't say you're sorry, they're saying, how come you're not saying you're sorry?
It doesn't matter, Jack.
From a basketball standpoint, there you go into the Big East tournament without your coach, who's a very, very good coach, by the way. It's good. That's going to put the top two teams in the tournament are at a disadvantage, and I think this tournament could be wide open.
Well, that would fall to the number 3 in line, which would be UConn, who's
playing really well,
lights out lately, and also St. John's been playing well too. I don't know if they'll make, if they win I guess if you win the Big East, is that an automatic bid?
Yeah, if they win a tournament, they get the bid. And it could happen. St. John's has been, very streaky, and they've beaten Villanova at full strength this year.
Right.
And to say on St. John's for a second, even without winning the tournament, Right now, they're not even on the bubble, most likely. But they had a nice win against Providence the other night. They finish up with Seton Hall, who's fighting for their NCAA lives as well tomorrow night. If they win against Seton Hall, if they win a couple of games in the Big East, they're probably going to put themselves back on the bubble, in the NCAA tournament bubble. So, and if they get to the final, I think they've got a very good chance of getting in. Some of the teams, I'm looking at Joe Lenardi's bracketology this morning. I mean, he's still got Rutgers in the last 4. And Rutgers is 9-10 in the Big Ten. They had great expectations, but they're 13-10 overall. I can make a case now the Big Ten is a better conference and a really deep conference this year, especially than the Big East. But I mean, how is Rutgers, going to get in over some of these? Should they get over UConn or Xavier or St. John's if St. John's goes to a tournament final? No.
Yeah. You're going to see some of that this year, especially with the bigger schools not having the best records this year, Keith. I think you're going to see a lot of people get in that don't deserve to be in there this year, and I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, because of disparity in the games played, and a lot of these the out of conference schedules weren't what they normally would be because you didn't have the opportunity to play them.
Right, 100%. So folks. Join us Monday night. Join us Sunday morning for the Fight of the Century. Then join Northeast Streaming Sports also on Monday night when we do the Final Four of the Big East tournament. We have a lot of great guests. Me and Keith.
We're previewing the whole tournament, by the way, Jack.
Yes.
Mac, not just the Final Four. That'll be the other show, the NCAA Final Four.
Right. But I'm talking about we're going to be coming down to the last games in the Big East. Isn't that correct?
They won't have started the tournament. They start the tournament next Wednesday.
Sorry about that, folks. So we'll be previewing the whole tournament, and then we'll be doing the Final Four of the NCAA at the end of the month.
So we still get to talk about Butler and Marquette because they won't be around for after Wednesday. So
and real quick, Keith, tell them the guests that we have lined up for the Big East tournament.
Well, for right here from the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, we've got the Philly sports guy, Jamie Mack. We've got the safety and the sports writer, Joe and Nate. We've also got Mike Vaccaro from the New York Post, who's covered the Big East for years and years and years. We've got Tom Keegan, a sports writer who worked here in the East for many years and covered the Big East for 20-some years. He's a Marquette grad, actually, so unfortunately his team's not doing all that well, but we'll still have lots to talk about. And we'll have Matt Brust, former St. John's standout, to come on and talk about what it's actually like to participate in the old Big East tournament and how it might compare to how the tournament is today.
And that conference at one time ruled the country, Keith. There's no.
I'll tell you, I had today on my show, I had Eric Sandifer and Tony Red Bruin, who were part of the freshman class of the very first Big East season. So in 1979, they were freshmen. The inaugural season of the Big East, and these guys helped build something that changed basketball in the East forever.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite rivalries we had back then, and a lot of great teams and great players from the great teams of the Big East.
Hey, one thing before you let me go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your show Sunday. I know Mac was getting on me for having my show on the anniversary, so I don't know why you didn't do the show on the anniversary, Jack. But that's a different question.
Well, that's on a Monday. Yeah. Where Mac has to have his Mondays off from the Mac and Jack show. That's how Mac is. He's not flexible. He says it would open up something for other shows on Mondays between Mac and Jack, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to set a precedent.
Oh, I thought he needed some time off from Jack, you were saying there. But
that also.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the show, and I want to let you guys know there's a movie out. I think it's only on Apple TV, but it's called One Night in Miami, and I
got to see that. Yeah.
It follows some of the great African American athletes and leaders of the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's when Ali was fighting Liston, so it kind of revolves around that fight and one night where these great people, great men like Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown, Malcolm X was part of this group. And there was a singer too. I can't remember his name right now, but I'm telling you guys, it's a great movie. And if you're Ali fans, you can watch it from that standpoint. You're a fan of any of those guys. It's really well done, and I think you'd enjoy it. So
yeah, I've been meaning to see that. Good point, Keith. Yeah.
Excellent, Keith. Thanks for the info. And again, I'll be seeing you Monday night at 7 p.m., folks, for the Big East tournament review, preview, update, info. We got it all happening.
We got it all happening.
We got it all covered. So, Keith, have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday night, my friend.
Have a great weekend, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care, Keith. Good stuff.
So there you go, Jack. Keith took us almost to the end of the show today, which is great.
Hey,
a lot of information and a lot of great stuff.
A lot of good information.
Yeah. So what we'll do, Jack, of course, we're not going to take a timeout because we got only about 6 minutes left. You got any information from the sports world that you want to cover?
I mean, there are little tidbits like all the time. Tom Brady's rookie card. Someone bought it. They paid $1.32 million for Tom Brady's rookie card. Tom Brady, who has all the money in the world, probably doesn't love himself that much for his own rookie card. If that was his only rookie card he could get, I don't think Tom Brady would pay for that. I mean, what do people do? I wonder how much money that person has to spend $1.32 million just for a rookie card. I mean, think of the house you could buy for that, Mac. I mean, wow. The NBA, for the All-Star team, they had to pick squads. And LeBron picked Giannis first, okay? And there's a big controversy. Even Charles Barkley said the Utah Jazz players, they were picked last. Imagine picking Donovan Mitchell last. Now, the Utah Jazz, who are a small market team, they have a chip on their shoulder as is. They're going to have a bigger chip on their shoulder when they compete against LeBron because he thought of other players ahead of us, to pick ahead of us. So that's going to motivate the Utah Jazz going forward. It motivates any competitor when you're not picked first because now you're thinking Giannis and Kevin Durant, who's picking the East team. What about the players who weren't picked first by Durant? They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. So that's going to kind of be very good.
Jack, why is Kevin Durant even picking a team? He didn't even hardly play this year. Why are they having Kevin Durant pick an all-star team when he doesn't even play?
Mac, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay,
I just don't know. That I didn't even think of it till now. Yeah. Why is Kevin Durant, he didn't play last year, why is he a captain? I can understand LeBron because the Lakers won the NBA title. He was the finals MVP. Shouldn't it have been another team that went to the finals last year? Shouldn't it be Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Wow, great point. Great point. I don't know.
Okay.
Wow, that should be more controversial than who they picked, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
No, not sorry. Make a great point, I mean, on that, too. The Saints released their punter who was with them for 12 years, Thomas Morstead. It's easy to say he was a casualty of the cap. That was part of it. Last year, he didn't have as good a year. He's been around a while. The Saints didn't really negotiate with him. But when a guy's with the team 12 years, it's worth mentioning. Kevin Love was given an award by the Greater Cleveland Sports Award, Society, a humanitarian award. It says a lot for Kevin Love. In this day and age where star players want to go to a team because they want to be in the running to win a ring, he was willing to be part of the Cavalier rebuilding process after being on their championship team with LeBron. And that says a lot for Kevin Love's character, that he's sticking with his one team. Oh, in boxing, on May 22nd, Top Rank Bob Arum just announced a big fight. But it's going to decide who the true junior welterweight championship of the world is. Californian Jose Ramirez against Island's Josh Taylor. Okay, that's going to be a massive fight. Ramirez against Taylor, May 22nd. Joe Altobelli, who was the manager of the Baltimore Orioles in the 1983 season when they won the World Series. Earl Weaver retired at the end of the 82 season. Altobelli took over, and the Orioles were ready to win. He didn't disturb anything, and they won the World Series with Altobelli as the manager that year. He passed away, Joe Altobelli, but, we remember him as a World Series winning manager. And that about, covers it. There's more news that I know slips under the radar. There always is.
Oh, sure. So with the final minute we got left, Jack, this day in sports history, Mike Bossy of the Islanders is the first to score 50 goals in 8 straight seasons.
Wow. I remember that was a big thing when Bobby Hall, the Chicago Blackhawks, became the first to be a 50-goal scorer. That was major news, and hockey's evolved, but now it's even a little bit routine.
Right? So, I mean, listen, Bossy was a great player, greater than I even knew. So that's it for today's show, folks. I want to thank you all for joining us today on our Friday show. We'll be back tomorrow, guys, with our Mac and Jack Sports Debate Show with our special guest, Dr. Paul Semendinger from Start Spreading the News broadcast, also an award-winning author. Great show today, Jack. Great guests. Yeah. And hope you all have a great weekend, but be sure to join us tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10 a.m. And, of course, we got that big
Great show, Matt, because you weren't hogging the ball. We spread it out all over. Everyone was getting opportunities to talk. You weren't hogging the ball today. We worked as a team. Great show.
Yes, we did.
Winning show today.
Yes, winning show today, Jack. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 to 10 a.m.